Welcome to Insights in Business. We are coming to you live from the Tidemark Theatre. Our guest today from the BC Chamber. She is the brand new President and CEO for the BC Chamber, Fiona Famulak. Fiona, it's so nice to have you. Thank you so much for making time in your very busy schedule to join us today.
Mary Ruth, it's just fantastic to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm 2.5 weeks old now, so looking forward to the conversation.
Now, let's start with a little bit of background about yourself. Now, Fiona, where is it that you grew up?
I grew up in the northeast of Scotland, so I'm a farmer's daughter. I'm a sister, an auntie, a godmother, and my family have been farming in the northeast for almost 200 years. So, and they're arable farmers, so we had livestock, we had sheep, we grew barley for the distilleries. We had vegetables and so on. And it was a great upbringing. Lots of chores as a farmer's kid, I can tell you.
I can relate. I am also a farm girl, but I'm from Southern Ontario, not something as exotic as Northern Scotland. Now, how often do you get back to Scotland to visit the family?
I make a point of getting back every year, sometimes twice a year. This year, of course, the last 12 months was different because of COVID. So I missed out on my Christmas visit, but with the vaccine program now getting underway, I've got my fingers crossed for Christmas 2021.
All right. Now, what was your schooling like in Scotland? Like, did you do all of your schooling in Scotland?
Well, the farming community, the farm was located about a mile out of a very small village called Strichen. It's about 1,000 people large. It's a little bit larger today, but growing up is about 1,000 people. And I went to school. I went to primary school there until age 12, primary and elementary, and then moved to the academy. So that's from 12 to 18 years of age in a nearby town. And then I decided to pursue a qualification in accounting. So I articled I went to university in Aberdeen, got an MA honours in economic science and accounting, and then I did my articles with the very early stages of KPMG. It was Thomson McClintock back then, and then they gradually merged to KPMG, which is what it's known as today. And and then that kickstarted my career outside of Scotland.
Now, what about in your childhood informed who you are today?
Oh gosh, being a farmer's kid it's a great upbringing. It's a tough business. It's a challenging business, and I have huge respect for the land and for Mother Nature. But the values are strong. I was taught, my brother and I were taught really strong values of the importance of working hard, doing our best, and being kind to people, treating them with respect, and making sure that we help each other and help our neighbors. So those core values have served me really well throughout my career and are at the foundation of what I do today. I fine-tuned them and I've added to them, but those are the core foundational values that I live by today.
What do you miss about being in Scotland?
I miss being with family. I'm along with my uncle who left Scotland in 1964. He moved to Australia and never returned. I left Scotland. Actually, I moved to London and worked in London for a bit, but in 1989, I left the UK and have been moving around. I'm a little bit of a gypsy, I'm sure, and I'm here now as a Canadian citizen. So I miss being with family, like physically being with family. I connect with them all the time. We speak often, but I miss visiting family.
What was your favorite food growing up?
Rice pudding, without a doubt.
And do you know how to make it so that you don't miss it so much?
I do. Yeah, my mom used to cook it. She used to do it with raisins. She used to add raisins in it, which was okay. I prefer it without the raisins, but yeah, that's one of my go-to comfort foods. If I need a little bit TLC, I'll whip up some rice pudding.
Now, can you tell us about haggis? I can't have somebody on from Scotland and not talk about haggis.
First of all, I'll tell you that it's delicious. Secondly, I'll tell you that it's not nearly as disgusting as you think it is. It's basically the insides of, like, it's sweetmeats. It's the intestines and so on and so forth, whipped up with some oatmeal and some salt and pepper. And it used to be much more disgusting. It used to have heart and lungs and stuff, but that's all been banned because that's not okay these days. But
okay.
It's delicious. Yeah, it's delicious. I would recommend it, Mary Ruth. If you haven't, have you tried it?
I've never tried it. No.
Oh, you see?
Well, because I didn't know anybody from Scotland who could make it properly, and I've never wanted to risk having a North American restaurant actually make it if it wasn't somebody from Scotland. Like, I really think for that type of an authentic food, it's got to be somebody who grew up with it.
It's well, there's a really and I'm sure you've got butchers that specialize in it too. We have a really good one here in North Vancouver that specializes in haggis at that time of the year.
Oh, okay.
So I'll make a note to send you some, and that way you can try it. January.
What time of year do they have it normally?
Well, we normally celebrate Robbie Burns' birthday on January 25. So it's usually a January delicacy. Okay. But there's also St. Andrew's Day, which is November 30th. And I've celebrated St. Andrew's Day with some haggis too. So that's November. So, you might be getting a little care package in November from me. I'll make a note.
Okay, I look forward to that. Now, at what age did you actually leave the UK, and did you come right to Canada, or did you go to other countries first?
I'm a little bit of a gypsy, as I mentioned. So I left the UK in 1989. I'm let me think, 64, 74, 84, 94. I was 26 when I left the UK. I'm 56 today. So I was with KPMG, and I wanted to spread my wings. I wanted to try something new. And KPMG, being the global network that it is, had lots of opportunities. I wanted to go to Australia, actually, but there weren't any openings in Australia at the time. But I did have a friend in Hong Kong, and I connected with him, asked some questions. And that was in May of 1989. And I landed in Hong Kong September the 4th that year. I was able to move quite quickly, and I was there for 10 years. And then I moved to Canada, virtue of my ex-husband. I give him full credit. We met in Hong Kong, and he introduced me to Whistler. He introduced me to Vancouver. He introduced me to Saskatchewan, where he's from. And when we parted ways in 2000, I decided to make Canada my home, and the rest is history.
All right. Well, we are going to take a very quick break. You are watching Insights in Business, coming to you live from the Tidemark Theatre. Joining us virtually from Vancouver, Fiona Famulak, the new president and CEO of the BC Chamber. A whole lot of letters in there. I'm Mary Ruth Snyder. We'll be right back. Stay right where you are. Welcome back. You're watching Insights in Business. I'm Ruth Snyder, the Executive Director for the Campbell River and District Chamber of Commerce. Our guest today is Fiona Famulak, the new BC Chamber CEO and President. Fiona, now when we left off, you had just moved to Canada in and around 1999-2000. And where did you settle first? Was it Whistler?
It was Whistler.
Okay.
Yeah. I settled in Whistler, and I didn't think I would be in Whistler as long as I was. I was there for 13 years and loved every second of it. It's a wonderful community. It has a special place in my heart, and I love being in the mountains, being a country kid. I love being in the open air, and it's a small community, but it's also large in many ways. It has a lot of international visitors. Some make their home there, and it was just a really great personal and professional experience in Whistler. So that was home for 13 years, and then I moved to Vancouver in 2013.
Now, what was that like for you moving from Whistler into one of the largest cities in Canada? Well, I guess having been in Hong Kong, you were used to city living, but it's still a bit of a change.
It's different. It is absolutely different. It's I mean, as a country girl, I enjoy the outdoors, and Vancouver gives me that. But I also like to be in the middle of things. I like to be in the thick of things, and that's why I enjoy living in cities. So, London served that purpose. Hong Kong did for sure. Vancouver does, and it's an adjustment, but it was a conscious adjustment. I wanted to take my career to the next level, and I was prepared to move anywhere to make that happen. And the opportunity came up to lead the Vancouver Regional Construction Association. And that was of interest to me because A, I love architecture, and B, I did manage a residential construction company in Whistler. So to me, the dots were beginning to form there. And it made sense. So I applied and I got the job.
Now, let's backtrack a little bit. When you were in Whistler, you ran a construction company. What else did you do when you were in Whistler?
I ran the construction company for a few years, and then I started my own strata management business because there was a need in the marketplace to fill a gap. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do that, and I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to introduce a different model, a different business model, which I did. Built up the company. Being a small business owner, I was able to volunteer at the Whistler Chamber of Commerce as a board member. So that allowed me to give back to community. And when the executive director in Whistler decided to move on, I was chair at the time of the board, and a couple of board members encouraged me to run for the vacancy. And I said no to begin with because the business was going well, it was growing. And I had a vision for that, but I was curious, and I did apply, and I got the position. So I was able to lead the Whistler Chamber of Commerce leading into the 2010 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games, and then through the other side, through the marketing initiatives and so on, to make sure that the community was set up to succeed after the Games. So my Whistler experience professionally and personally was just excellent. I would redo it if I had to.
I think my favorite part of the 2010 Games had to be Sidney Crosby's gold medal goal in overtime.
On the last day, absolutely. It was a beautiful sun. I remember it because I remember exactly where I was that day. And I was in the village, and being in the Whistler Chamber, of course, we had to lead the business community. So I really didn't see too many live events.
Yes.
Because I was busy working.
Yeah.
But I did stop on the last day to take it all in the square just outside the Araxi restaurant. And the atmosphere was electric. The sun was beating down. It was just a beautiful, beautiful day. It's a great way to end the Games. And great memories.
Now, after you left the Whistler Chamber, was the next job with the Construction Association?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. And how long were you with them?
I was with them until the end of January this year, so
Okay.
7.5 years, and a great experience. As I say, I love architecture and I love construction. I'm a Taurus zodiac, so Tauruses like to get their hands in the dirt and do
Yes.
stuff. And the experience just it allowed me to learn about the industry. It allowed me to drive some initiatives that move the industry and the organization forward. I'm all about challenging the status quo constructively, but challenging the status quo to move things forward. I'll do that here in this position too. And we were able to move the dial on some things, made some great contacts, and learned a lot that I'll be able to apply in this position.
What would you say is the number one thing that you learned working for the Construction Association that's going to inform your work at the BC Chamber?
Never be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Okay. And is that something that you've carried with you through all of your jobs, or is that something that developed over time?
Well, I was thinking about that. And I think, unbeknownst to me, I think it's something that I've done throughout my career. While I was with KPMG in Hong Kong, I moved into their consulting division and was very privileged to be part of that business process group that really just takes organizations apart and puts them back together again. And that, I think, was the beginning of my curiosity for challenging the status quo. And then when I moved to Whistler, when I began my own company in strata management, I wanted to introduce a different business model, a different way of doing strata management there. So that was another way that I like to challenge the status quo. It wasn't clear to me at the time, but looking back, I can see the dots and I can see how they all interrelate. In the Construction Association, I definitely challenged status quo there and moved the dial. And here I will too.
It sounds like it started out as a subconscious thought for you, that it just sort of was something that was in your makeup, but then at some point it became a very conscious choice to do that.
Yes, I like to, I believe I'm a lifelong learner. So I really do believe that we never stop learning and we never stop improving, either as individuals, professionally, personally, in relationship, as organizations. There's always a way to improve, even just small increments. And I think that has informed my curiosity around challenging the status quo.
Okay. Now we are going to take another quick break. You are watching Insights in Business, coming to you live from the Tidemark Theatre in the city of Campbell River. Our guest, Fiona Famulak, joining us from Vancouver. Stay right where you are. We will be right back.
This is my habitat house. My parents helped build it. Now you don't get wet when it rains. I don't get too hot or too cold inside. And I don't have to worry when the winds blow. This is my house.
This is my house. This is my house.
My house.
My house.
I can play with my sister. I can play with my brother. I can play with my mother, my father, my family.
My family. My family. This is my house. This is my house.
I can study. I can be safe with my family. This is my house.
This is my house.
My house.
My house.
This is my house.
Find out how you can help more families like mine have a safe, decent place to call home.
Welcome back to Insights in Business, coming to you from the Tidemark Theatre. I'm Ruth Snyder. Joining me, Fiona Famulak from Vancouver, virtually. I can't wait until you can be here in person with us here at the theatre and have a discussion, maybe 6 months into your role. Fiona, as the new president and CEO of the BC Chamber, you've been in the job just under 2 weeks. In the middle of a global pandemic, what are you going to do first?
Well, my list is very long.
I'll bet it is.
But the first thing I'm going to do is, in addition to understanding exactly where we're at, from an organizational point of view, my first commitment is to reach out to each of the chamber network executives. So people like yourself, Ruth, I want to connect with all 125 of you, and I want to hear what's going on in your communities. I want to hear what your challenges are, what your priorities are, and I want to work with you to understand how we can serve you, because the BC Chamber of Commerce is a member-driven organization, and we exist to serve the network. It's that simple, and I want to make sure that we are serving you to the best of our ability.
I think the pandemic has shone a light for sure on the strength of that network, both provincially and nationally. And do you think that that's something that we can, as an organization, build on?
You bet. Yeah, you bet. The pandemic, I think, has been, well, I know it's been devastating in and across the sectors, across BC, across the country and the world. I think there's also some really good lessons that have come out of the pandemic, Mary Ruth. I think that it's taught us that we need each other more than we think. I think it's taught us that we can collaborate and work together with a common goal and move something forward. And I think it's told us that we need to do business differently, because the old way of doing business isn't going to cut it any longer, simply because we're not able to come together to work, and we're not able to come together to recreate. So, and it's been like that for a year, and it's going to continue to be like that for some time. So we need to do business differently. And that's not an easy proposition to face. It's going to require courageous conversations. It's going to require challenging the status quo. And it's going to require us perhaps working with partners and companies, competitors even, that we haven't worked with before. So we've got some challenges ahead, but I think if we can really capitalize on the lessons from the pandemic, then we will come out of this pandemic stronger than we were when we went into it back in March of 2020.
I realize that you are just getting up to speed, but the BC Chamber has been a member of the Premier's Recovery Task Force. Have you started to gain some insight into what that is, and have you had a chance to meet with the Premier yet?
I haven't met with him yet, but I've been welcomed, so I appreciate that. There hasn't been a task force meeting yet in the last couple of weeks, but I'm sure there's one on the horizon. But in terms of the work that we've done with government, I really need to commend the Chamber Network for the input, for the feedback that you've all given us over the last 12 months that we've collected through the BC Mind Reader platform that we have. And that has been instrumental in forming the 3-point recovery plan that we developed and issued back in, I think it was August of 2020. It's called Big Thinking for Small Business. And it's one of my favorite reports. I've been leaning on it heavily over the last couple of weeks. And it's a 3-point plan that will help us to ensure that the business community post-recovery is stronger than the business community prior to the pandemic. So we want to make sure that it's more competitive, more innovative, and more inclusive. And the government has taken some of the recommendations from that report and has folded them into their initiatives. So we're very, very pleased to be able to help in that way. And thank you to the Chamber Network for the feedback that allows us to do that.
I think that's one thing that maybe a lot of the general public aren't aware of, is that there are 125 chambers throughout the province that are all interconnected through the BC Chamber, and we help each other and we support each other and we steal ideas from each other.
Absolutely.
And one of the most recent reports I saw coming out, just in terms of the federal government, one of the directions they want to go is towards this blue economy, which is meaning, maximizing the oceans and what they can provide for us. So is that something that the BC Chamber can sort of help to develop over the next couple of years?
Absolutely, both blue and green economies. We can help there in ways really through the policy network that we have. So our policy work really underpins the advice and the feedback that we give to government. And again, credit to the Chamber Network for leaning in And I know that your chamber, Mary Ruth, and many of the Northern Ireland chambers have leaned into policy over the years. And we have an AGM coming up and another policy session coming up at the end of May. And whatever is discussed and approved in those sessions regarding both blue and green economies, we'll be taking that advice and taking that feedback and sharing that with both the provincial and the federal governments.
And will those policies go not just to the government, but will that go up through the UBCM conference? Like, will some of that be a crossover there?
It may be, depending on the resolutions and policies that come out of that. Some of them may be appropriate to table with the UBCM.
What would you say the most important thing is going to be for our entire network to move forward in the next 6 months working on the ground?
Well, remember, we have a chamber network of 125 chambers, and you all have 36,000 members across the province. So we're all supporting 36,000 small, medium, and large businesses across the province. And our priority, all of our priority, is to ensure that they are resilient today, because we're not out of the pandemic yet. We want to make sure that they have the support and the resources that they need to be resilient today. And that means making sure that they have particularly the financial resources to aid in cash flow, to help them invest in people, help in investing in equipment, and so on and so forth. And we're doing that as a chamber network. We're doing that with you, and also making sure that the 36,000 businesses are set up to succeed in the recovery phase post-pandemic. And that's what I mentioned a little bit earlier. The Big Thinking for Small Business 3-point recovery plan sets out a variety of policies that we've shared with the government to ensure that the business community post-pandemic is stronger, more competitive, innovative, and inclusive than it was prior to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay. Now we have less than a minute left, and I'd just like to have you give us a 10-second overview on the BC Mind Reader and invite people to be a part of that.
So the BC Mind Reader is a platform that we launched back in 2018. It's basically a survey platform that allows us, through our chamber network, to collect what's on British Columbia's mind. So we issue surveys on a regular basis. We've had thousands and thousands of responses, which we then tabulate. We share back with the chamber network to help them with their advocacy efforts, and we share them with government to help them inform their programming.
Okay. Fiona, thank you so much for joining us today. We really, really appreciate your time and look forward to catching up with you in about 6 months after you get a little more under your belt.
Looking forward to it, Mary Ruth. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and stay well, everybody.
Thank you. You've been watching Insights in Business, coming to you from the Tidemark Theatre. We'll see you again.